Hello, this is Mrs. Dowell, and I am going to show you how to factor trinomials using a grouping method. We are turning this trinomial into a polynomial with 4 terms. I intend to rewrite 14x as the sum of 2 terms. This method will work whenever the leading coefficient is not equal to 1. This is a very handy way to turn factoring into factoring with grouping methods. So I'm going to start out with an x, and I'm going to take my first coefficient times 8. 3 times 8 is 24. Then I'm going to take the middle term and I'm going to write it down here below. My goal is to write 14 as the sum of 2 numbers. So I'm looking for the sum to be 14 and I'm looking for the product to be 24. In other words, when you multiply the 2 numbers together, you'll get 24, and when you add the 2 numbers, you will get 14. So I need to list the factors of 24. 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. Again, I'm trying to get a sum of 14 and a product of 24. So I can see that this combination will likely work. So I'm going to write the 2 here and the 12 here, and I'm going to check. Is 2 times 12 equal to 24? Is 2 plus 12 equal to 14? Once I have checked my work, I now have found the combination that will work. I am going to write 14x as 2x plus 12x. I am going to write the 12x first. You will see why in a minute. 3x squared plus 12x plus 2x plus 8. The reason I wrote the 12x first is because now I am going to group the first 2 terms together. I need for you to understand that I have written 14x as 12x plus 2x. Okay. So now I'm going to group the first 2 together. Generally, I put a slash there to represent that's my first group. And then I'm going to group the second 2 together. At this point, I want to factor out the greatest common factor. These first 2 terms both have a 3 and an x in common. If I were to factor out the greatest common factor, I would be left with an x and a 4. Some people show their work on the side by saying 3x squared divided by 3x is equal to x. 12x divided by 3x is equal to 4. For my second group, I notice that they both have a 2 in common. That is the greatest common factor. So I'm going to write down the greatest common factor, and then I'm going to write down what is left over. X plus 4. I can always go back and distribute to check and make sure that I have factored correctly. 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times 4 is 12x. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 4 is 8. Now that I have recognized that they both have an x plus 4, I am now going to factor the greatest common factor out of both of the groupings. I will write down the x plus 4. That is the greatest common factor from the first group and from the second group. In essence, I have taken this away. Now I will write down whatever is left over, 3x plus 2. This was called factoring trinomials by using a grouping method. There are certainly other ways, but this is one method. Remember, this method works very efficiently when the leading coefficient is not equal to 1.